Salvete discipuli discipulaeque linguae Latinae. Greetings, students of the Latin language. Mihi valde placet vos pulchram linguam Latinam aeternam docere. I'm very happy to have another chance to speak with you and explore with you the beautiful and eternal Latin language. In the last lesson, we studied the subjunctive power of the long vowel A. We turned pono, I place or put away, into ponam, let me put away. We will see that regular verb again soon enough. Let us instead now review the personal active endings of the Latin verb. Go ahead. I'll wait a moment while you recite them. Orem, st, mus, tis, nt. Again together. Unus duo, tres. Orem, st, mus, tis, nt. And one more time. Orem, st, mus, tis, nt. These endings work not just for regular verbs, but for irregular verbs as well. And we are going to learn two of them today. Sum, I am, and possum, I am able. The verb to be, or linking verb, is how we explain what it is, whatever that what may be. Let us examine the forms of the verb to be together. It's irregular, as I've mentioned. It has four parts. Sum, I am, esse, to be, fui, I have been, futurum, going to be. Of these four parts, we will in this lesson use only the first two. Let us look at the present active indicative and the present active subjunctive forms of the verb sum, I am. We will analyze, we'll compare, we'll contrast, and then we'll chant. Sum, est, summus, estis, sunt. I have overemphasized the endings for a reason. Despite the irregularities of the base, su, es, su, the endings are regular. Please repeat the Latin after me. Sum, I am. Es, you are. Est, he, she, or it is, but also there is. Summus, we are. Estis, y'all are. Sunt, they are, or there are. Again, without the English translation, in the singular, please repeat. Sum es est, summus estis sunt. And one more time in the singular first. Sum es est, and in the plural, summus estis sunt. It's already time for a quiz. I will make up a sentence in English that includes a form of the verb to be in the present tense. Please, in the pause provided, supply the corresponding Latin equivalent. After the pause, I, Molinarius, will provide the correct response so that you, discipuli discipulaeque linguae Latinae, students of the Latin language, may check your work. Latin is a language. Est. Is Pompey in love? Est. There is a lion in that cage. Est. We are students of the Latin language. Summus. Are you, Julius, a military genius? S. You, Catiline and Cethegus, are conspirators. Estis. I am not a prophet. Sum. There are many soldiers outside my door. Sunt. Let us now compare the indicative of sum es est, sumus estis sunt. Let's compare these forms to the subjunctive. The key vowel will be the letter I, and every form will begin with S. Sum becomes sim, es becomes sis, est becomes sit, sumus becomes simus, estis becomes sitis, and sunt becomes sint. Let's try the present subjunctive of the verb sum, esse fui futurum, to be. Please repeat the Latin after me. Sim, let me be or I may be. Sis, you may be. Sit, let him, her, or it be, or he, she, or it, or there may be. Simus, let us be, or we may be. Sitis, y'all may be. Sint, let them be, or they may be, or there may be. Please repeat the Latin singular after me. Sim, sis, sit, and the plural, simus, sitis, sint. Again, sim, sis, sit, simus, sitis, sint. And stop. We now exist. We are, and with the addition of 3 letters, we can also have ability in Latin. Those who are can, so long as they have enough pot, P-O-T, pot, plus being yields, at least in ancient Latin, ability, which is to say the forms of the other irregular verb for today, to be able. This verb is irregular in English as well. For example, compare I can see you to I am able to see you. Can and to be able are not even close, and yet they are considered parts of the same irregular English verb. Latin is much more regular than that. All you need is enough pot. Well, and you also need to remember to change the final T of pot to an S sometimes. But why does P-O-T, pot, provide such magical ability in Latin? Latin pot is related to the same P-O-T we find in the English word potent, a word that means powerful, able. So if est means is, which of course it does, and I combine it with pot, I obtain potest, which means, quite literally, able is, or in normal English word order, is able. It's that simple. The only other thing you need to know is that P-O-T changes to P-O-S if the initial letter of the form of to be begins with an S. I've checked my supplies, and I have plenty of P-O-T, but. So let's form the indicative and subjunctive present tenses of to be able. Pot plus sum, remembering that sum begins with an S, yields possum, I am able or I can. Pot plus S yields potes, you are able or you can. Pot plus est yields potest, he, she, or it is able, or he, she, or it can. Pot plus sumus, remembering that sumus begins with an S, yields possumus, we are able or we can. Pot plus estis yields potestis, y'all are able or y'all can. Pot plus sunt, remembering that sunt begins with an S, yields possunt, they are able or they can. I know how much you like to chant, so please repeat after me. Possum potes, potest. Possumus, potestis, possunt. Again, possum, potes, potest. Possumus, potestis, possunt. One more time. Possum, potes, potest. Possumus, potestis, possunt. Let's review the present tense subjunctive of the verb to be. Sim, sis, sit. Simus, situs, sint. How many of these forms begin with the letter S? All of them. We will combine these forms with pot or pos to form I may be able. You may be able, he, she, or it may be able, etc. Pos is all we need. Let's give it a try. Pos plus sim yields possum. Pos plus sis yields possis. Pos plus sit, possit. Pos plus simus, possimus. Pos plus situs, possitus. Pos plus sint, possunt. The present subjunctive of the verb to be able. Please repeat after me in the singular. Possum, possis, possit. And in the plural, possimus, possitus, possunt. And one more time. Possum, possis, possit. Possimus, possitus, possunt. Let's clean up a few stray details and then take a look at our new forms in action. These two irregular verbs have imperative and infinitive forms. The command forms for be, as in, be faithful, Peter, S. And in the plural, as in, be faithful, Peter and Judas, este. And if you want Peter and Judas to be able, give them some pot. Potes, be able, Peter. Poteste, be able, Peter and Judas. And the infinitives? Esse means to be. So how do we form the infinitive to be able? I wish I could say potesse. And that form does occur in extant Latin literature, but the standard form was and is posse, which tells us two things. The verb is irregular, and the verb was so common that further contraction took place. Potesse became posse. What have we learned? Have a look at this chart for the verb possum. The handiest thing about possum is that it is a verb that allows its meaning to be completed by other verbs. Simply stating I can or I am able, for example, does not always tell us enough. You can do what? I am able to read Latin. If we parse, that is, examine the grammatical details of I am able to read, what verb, in English, in what part of speech completes the meaning of the main verb I am able? The answer is to read. The verb to read completes the meaning of I am able by telling us what I am able to do. And what part of speech is to read? It is the infinitive or to form. And inasmuch as to read as an infinitive that completes the meaning of the verb, we call it a complementary infinitive. Note the spelling, not complimentary with an I, as if an infinitive were telling you something nice, but complementary with an E, as in an infinitive that completes the meaning of the verb. If the verb lego, legere, legi, lectum means read, and potest means she is able in this instance, what does potest legere mean? she is able to read, or she can read. And we note the peculiarity that in English, the infinitive loses to after can. The infinitive used to lose the to after dare as well, as in Brutus wouldn't dare stab Caesar. But we increasingly hear such sentences as dare to go where no man has gone before. What can I say? Languages change over time. But in this instance, the irregularity is in English, not Latin. Present tense active Latin infinitives always end in RE, except, of course, when they end in SE, but that's only for a couple of irregular verbs, like esse, to be, and posse, to be able. Let's try a few sentences using vocabulary from Lesson 3. Possumus bibere. We are able to drink, or we can drink. Possunt ineptire. They are able to be foolish, or they can be foolish. Potest linguam Latinam legere. She is able to read the Latin language, or she can read the Latin language. Bibimus ut possimus bene vivere. We drink so that we can live well. Or more literally, we drink so that we may be able to live well. Please note that it is not always necessary to represent the Latin subjunctive in English. We used to have a robust subjunctive mood. Today, not so much. Why? Languages change. Except for classical Latin, which is yet another reason why it is worth knowing. Let's look at that sentence again. Bibimus ut possimus bene vivere. Let's parse each word. That is, explain the morphology, grammar, and syntax of each word and constituent phrase of this 5-word sentence. Bibimus, we drink. The verb is in the first person plural present tense. What is the mood? Indicative. Why? Because we state a fact. We are drinking. And the word ut, it is a conjunction that joins one phrase to another. This allows us to combine 2 clauses into one more complex thought. Ut is also a subordinating conjunction. The thought expressed in the clause or phrase introduced by ut is combined with the thought of the main clause, bibimus, to explain why we make the statement, bibimus, we drink. In particular, ut introduces purpose or result. Personally, I opted for purpose. But, barring further context, we could well have chosen result. We drink with the result that we are able to live well. It's the alternative. There is, as the old but now pet-friendly saying goes, more than one way to bathe the cat. But what is the mood of possimus? We can, or are able, or may be able to. It is a first person, plural, present tense subjunctive verb in a clause of result or purpose. What about bene? That new word is an adverb that modifies the infinitive vivere, to live. And what kind of infinitive is vivere? Because it completes the meaning of possimus, it is a complementary infinitive. And there you have it. We have parsed the sentence. Parsing gets a bad name, but why? If you study human anatomy, does it matter whether you look at an artery or a vein? Aren't they both just blood tubes? Well, no. And those who want to understand language accurately and with precision, parse. But life is short, which you can now read in the original Latin. Vita, life, est brevis. Short. brief. Brief derives from brevis. Think brevity, or in better Latin word order, vita brevis est, or perhaps brevis est vita, or simply vita brevis. The Romans were fond of leaving out the est altogether on the grounds that it was so obvious as to be unnecessary. And there are varieties of English, granted non-standard, that do the same thing. Here's an example. You ask, "Why are you not drinking your coffee, Molinarius?" I respond, "The coffee is cold." So far, so good. Standard English. But would I really say is? I would, using my Midwestern inflected standard American dialect, actually probably respond, "The coffee's cold." Attaching an S to coffee because is so obvious and common that it may be left unstressed. We could, and some do, take it a step further. "Why are you not drinking your coffee, sir?" Answer, "The coffee cold." This is perfectly intelligible and would be considered elegant if it were in Latin. In English, on the other hand, the construction serves as a social marker. This speaker has not been educated or has not chosen to supply the useless unstressed S of the third person present tense indicative of the irregular verb to be. And even if we did not consciously parse that sentence in such detail, most would, when we heard it, using our knowledge of English and its various social registers, instantly have arrived at similar results. We may have even drawn conclusions about the person's social class and ethnicity. The tiniest linguistic details can be powerful markers, and the only way to get at them is to parse them. Embrace your inner linguist and the pleasures of parsing. Vita brevis, life is short. Ars longa, art is long. That's a famous saying, which we could write out more fully, but less pithily, as vita est brevis, sed ars est longa. Life is short, but art is long. Said, by the way, is a conjunction that contrasts the thought of what follows said with the idea of the main clause. Latin can drop the said altogether. This is a rhetorical trick that makes listeners or readers combine the clauses on their own without the help of a conjunction. For you rhetoricians, that figure of speech is called a syndeton, which means no connection in ancient Greek, the inventors of rhetoric. But I'm not here to teach you ancient Greek. Let's enjoy the phrase in the original Latin and then spell out the thought in the more ponderous language of our own times. Vita brevis, ars longa. Life is short, art long. That is, our individual lives are short, but our creative products, our art, can last much longer. Let's drill some of our new forms of sum, to be, and possum, to be able. Sit vita longa. May life be long. Sit was subjunctive. Ars brevis esse potest. Art can be short. Art is able to be short. Linguam Latinam legere possumus. We can, or we are able, to read the Latin language. Potestis ineptire. Y'all can be foolish. Sumus. We are. Simus. Let us be. Est. It is. Sit. Let it be. Sit, sit. Bad Beatles joke. Let it be, let it be. As long as we are As long as we are in that kind of mood, how about a line from Hamlet? Essay, unknown essay. To be or not to be. Essay, unknown essay. How about this one? Esse est posse. To be is to be able. Here's a quote from Ovid. Pone metum, wallio. Metum means fear. Wallio is a form of the verb that means to be well. Pone is the command form of a verb you have learned. Pono ponere possui possitum. What does the poet Ovid tell us? Pone metum, wallio. Put away your fear. I am well. Did you notice the asyndeton, or lack of connection? Pone metum wallio. We'd probably say something like, don't be afraid because I'm well, or for I'm well. Romans love that rhetorical trick. How about ponamus metum? What does that mean? What does that a in ponamus tell us? It tells us that the verb is in the subjunctive mood. Let us put away our fear. Let's not be afraid. I made that sentence up. But Juvenal, another famous poet, wrote, Ponamus nimios gemitus. Nimios means excessive, and gemitus means sorrow. Try translating the whole sentence. Ponamus nimios gemitus. Let us put away excessive sorrow. If decipio decipere, decapi deceptum means deceive, and it does, try this sentence. Caesar populum Romanum decipit. Caesar deceives the Roman people. Slight variation. Caesar populum Romanum decipere potest. Caesar is able to deceive the Roman people. Please parse decipere. Decipere is a complementary infinitive, which is to say that it completes the meaning of potest. Do you recall the phrase fiat lux? Let there be light, or more literally, let light be made. Si, the word si, is another conjunction that means if in Latin. What would this sentence mean? Si lux est, possumus bibere. If there is light, we are able to drink. This is a simple condition. Let's make it subjunctive. Si lux fiat, possimus bibere. If light should be made, we would be able to drink. Or in less formal English, if you turn on the light, we'd be able to drink. Let's turn it into a question by adding a question mark. Si lux fiat, possimus bibere. If it should become light, would we be able to drink? English was less simple. Latin word order remained the same, but in English, we had to change our word order as well as raise our tone in order to make it a question. At all events, with just a few words and a few forms, we can say relatively complex things. You should pat yourselves on the back, or as the poet Ovid commanded those who'd learned his lessons in seduction, dicite yo pion. Words to celebrate. Yo basically remains unchanged to this day and was used famously by Sylvester Stallone in Rocky, as in yo Adrian. And pion, another word that basically means shout out, as in, hey, thanks for the shout out, or yo, thanks for the peon. But let's not parse the moment. Dicite, yo, pion. And with that, all of you lovers of the Latin language, omnes amatores linguae latinae, you are free to go. Seriously, exite, depart, ut linguam latinam discatis, and practice it on your own before we meet again. Gratias wobisago, many thanks. And until we meet again, take care, so that you may be well. Curate ut valiatis. Id est, farewell.